Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. What can we say? Just brutally cold temperatures invaded the state. In fact, almost the entire eastern two-thirds of the United States during this last week. The model output that I was using in terms of temperature forecast, I just didn't believe we could get as cold as we were, so I got my head handed to me on a platter, so to speak, and in the, as simple as terms you can say, thought that the surface temperatures would certainly offset some of this cold air. So temperatures actually come in about 10 degrees colder than what the forecast models were for this week. We'll try to get a little better as we come up through this next week, and certainly today looks to be the most active day in this entire forecast as we have yet another impulse coming through with a reinforcing shot of cold air and unfortunately snowfall. But after we see the departure of this system, we start to see a slight moderation trend during the week, with even a better chance as we go into next weekend for a return to normal temperatures in our region, unless we start to see a complete 180-degree reversal from the model. So let's take a look at what we see in the upper air pattern. And here, once again, we have this broad-based trough that extends well up into Canada as we got a blocking high-pressure system east of Alaska that's allowing this Arctic air to funnel down into the northern Rockies and all points to the east. So this next piece of energy is going to wrap around. We have this frontal boundary movement through the state right now. Another piece of energy will wrap down through the southern plains, and this will merge into a reinforcing trough in the eastern United States and start to allow some of this ridging in the western United States to build our way. So the quantitative precipitation forecast for day is indicating between 1/10 and 1/4 inch of moisture across the eastern two-thirds of the state. That would translate into a general coverage of about 1.5 to 4 inches of snowfall. The heaviest totals right now appear to be across north central Nebraska, and another secondary area between 1/4 and 1/2 inch laying across north central and northeast Kansas. If this area here does shift a little bit toward the north, we will be looking at much of southeast Nebraska and possibly having 2 to upwards of 5 inches of snowfall. For right now, we're keeping the heaviest precipitation to our south. As we go to tomorrow, you can start to see that this entire system starts pivoting. We still keep that cold air flowing straight over the eastern half of the state, so we're going to get reinforcing cold air for at least Sunday, and some of this may hold into Monday. We may have some flurry activity to deal with, but it doesn't look like any pressing significant accumulations. Now, as we go into Tuesday, you'll start to see that this trough begins to broaden out and weaken, and this ridge starts to build back in. So our temperatures are going to start to moderate somewhat during the middle of the week. We get closer up toward the freezing march across a good portion of eastern Nebraska, and then another system through the southern stream starts to make its way eastward. And we'll be watching this one right now. It keeps it south of the state, but any northward turn, and we could be looking at a reinforcing shot of snowfall across the eastern part of the state. We'll see that system moves rapidly across Texas, and we see a little bit of residual cold air moving in to cool us down slightly before we start to see warmer temperatures building in as this ridge moves into our region. So if we look at the forecast in terms of temperatures, very cold conditions with snow this weekend, slight moderation through the middle of the week with a slight cool down as we get toward the end of next week. 8 to 14-day forecast shows that this cold air is starting to weaken with this warm air moving in, and in terms of precipitation, nothing to speak of.